he's like a superhero dude who could just like, you got to get the heart rate up 128. That's where you need to get people at. I'm like, oh, okay, dude.
Welcome back to another exciting episode of EDM Chatters. Today's topic is EDM in movies and television. How authentic is it really? As a reminder, kind viewers, please like and subscribe so you always know when we put out new videos, and also follow us on Twitch now that we are streaming again so you don't miss out on a live stream. EDM in movies and TV. We were talking about it and I started thinking about like how authentic depictions of EDM have been. One of my cohorts brought up the We Are Your Friends movie with Zac Efron from like 6 years ago.
It was a different time.
It really was. Having Zac Efron as the pretty boy DJ, great for a movie, but honestly, it sort of fits the theme of being a DJ. Like, yeah. in some degrees, not everyone who's a DJ is going to be attractive, right?
It definitely gets into the superficial aspects of the industry.
100%. And like Emily Ratajkowski as his love interest. I mean, dear God, I love that woman. But also like...
But it's also Emily Ratajkowski in a movie. Full disclosure, I haven't seen this thing yet. I remember when this trailer came out, like, I think you and I just like trashed the living crap out of this movie when it was announced.
I did. I also went to a premiere of it. Premiere is a little bit of an exaggeration. I went to a screening of it. So in this movie, this kid wants to be a DJ producer. Well, he wants to be a DJ, but he figures he has to produce to go along and do it. And he's taking shit gigs for shit money.
Yeah.
And he meets up with this producer who helps to mentor him. And one of my most memorable parts of the movie is this scene where there's a montage of him in the studio. The one thing that they don't really show is the hours upon hours of just tuning a single kick just to like get it like sound just right. Like it's a montage, so it's like all sped up, and the pacing, like I assume people who have never stepped foot in a studio are starting to think like, why didn't I lisp there? Are starting to think. They're starting to think that's how music is made, is just you get in the vibe and you just like keep going and going and going, and they don't realize like you can spend months on a single track. The scene where he like goes out into nature and like records natural, like,
yeah, dude,
people do that, like Bauer did that for his album a few years ago, for his AA album. Kill Paris actually like transformed MIDI samples, like electrical signals from plants, into MIDI samples. It's not exactly unheard of, but just the way they went about it, like there was this like philosophical like come to God moment. I was just like, all right.
So since I haven't seen the movie, I just watched the trailer for the show, right? If you see in the trailer, there's like this really weird like BPM, like he's like a superhero dude who could just like, you got to get the heart rate up or whatever, like when you're warming everyone up in your set or whatever.
Yeah, that part.
And it does like this weird X-ray visual effect on Emily Ratajkowski, and it's just like, and it's so weird. And then it's like 128. That's where you need to get people at. I'm like, oh, okay, dude. Like this,
it's like I disregarding every other genre. Like, let's forget about hardstyle or dubstep or trap or trance or like anything other like house.
But there are some good moments where it's like he's showing Emily Ratajkowski and I guess the famous producer dude one of his own demos. It has like shitty drum samples and it's just like like a super long intro thing, and I feel like every producer who ever like started out went through that kind of experience where you're like making music and you're making like a minute long intro for like your first house track. That's like a cool kind of bit, kind of as a reference to bedroom producers and stuff.
The movie isn't all bad. It has its better points.
Yeah, for sure.
But like overall, just like and the fact that like he and his friends go to EDC to sell drugs, and then
is that what happened?
They go to EDC to sell drugs. And this is the part that like me and my friends just like couldn't believe, is the fact that like 1 second he was in EDC and the next second he was back on the strip, as if the traffic wasn't going to take him at least an hour and a half to get
just,
there.
Like, appeared within like 15 minutes.
Yeah, no, like he just disappears from the strip. And, like, his friends are like, "Where did he go?" And then it cuts to a scene of him and Emily Ratajkowski like running across one of like the walkways over the strip, and they're just like back in Vegas. I'm like, how the fuck did they get there so quickly?
with
like that's not how that works.
With like the population of the Las Vegas Strip like quadrupling because of EDC.
Exactly. Oh yeah, and that's exactly.
Anyways, moving on, Daft Punk and Tron Legacy.
Yes.
A very notable reference appearance of like EDM in a film. I think it just kind of goes beyond like EDM superficially. It's just like, oh yeah, it's Daft Punk. They're like in the movie they scored.
Yeah, so I mean, this is definitely a different example because it's not like about DJing. They're just playing a cameo in the movie they scored, right?
Exactly.
But they are DJing. Oh, I mean, at least they're pretending to DJ, and they probably put the music on it.
Does tell them to do their thing, and then there's like a fight scene.
But I mean, like that's all done in post. They're not like playing this song in the scene. Yeah. You say it's probably the most authentic representation of EDM you can find. Goes above and beyond what EDM superficially is. I have what's the word? Yeah, it starts with a C. Can't think of what it is, but I have another example. We'll just go with that. One of my friends, Castlevania, who also helped to score the movie, I believe it was John Wick 2. The opening, that scene when they're in like the giant party and he goes to kill that one girl, the boss, he's also in the background DJing his own score as well. And then they also have like a vocalist and like a synth guitar or whatever. Yeah. So like that's also like, I feel like a really accurate representation of DJing and EDM, where it's like an actual party and like there's like no mention of drugs. It's just sort of more of a representation of like the hedonism of it all. When people try to represent EDM in movies, it becomes almost like a farce. It becomes like almost like a joke in and of itself, which is a perfect segue into talking about the infamous Saturday Night Live sketch with DJ Da Vinci, aka Adam Sandberg.
It's a pretty good sketch, actually.
It's a fantastic sketch. I mean,
so
like if you can't laugh at yourself, then what are you doing, right? But the sketch is infamous, especially in the EDM world, because it's such sarcasm for a scene. He like cooks up some breakfast on stage. He's taking care of his Zen garden, draws a picture, like, and the whole time he's like hovering his hand like over the drop button, and then he's like, huh.
I also like the crowd reactions where they're like, this is the best day of my life. They're just like trying to vibe out and shit. It's so funny.
Exactly. And they're like trying to get ready. It's like, no. Yeah. I think they explode in the end, the people.
Yeah, so he finally drops the bass with that button, and then everyone just dies.
Yeah. Obviously, like that is a farce. So that's a couple examples of like, we have like the accurate representations, the one that like sort of like dramatizes it a bit. We have the sarcastic one. But we also have sort of the inaccurate, unrealistic representations. So if you remember the Blade scene where like the rain starts falling from the ceiling and it's blood, no one would ever have liquid rain down from the ceiling while you are DJing because the equipment would break.
Yeah. I was watching, like, I actually haven't watched all the Blade movies, but like it's so like representative of late 90s, just like hard techno, hardcore clubbing or whatever. The blood shower thing is like actually pretty like gnarly. How do they get this on film? But like the DJ has flashlights strapped to his head because I guess he can't see. What is happening here?
If I was a DJ to be booked by that, like, and blood started raining from the ceiling, I'd be like, I talked to the promoter, like, yo, you gotta pay for my equipment. Like, that ain't cool. Like, I gotta take this to the next gig. Or maybe it's provided by the club itself and they just have a budget. We need to buy new CDJs after every fucking show because we're gonna rain blood from the ceiling.
Or they have like a little like vault in the back where they just like pull out a new like set of CDJs every night, just like
just do a hot swap.
And lastly on the list, kind of in the same era actually, The Matrix. This isn't really EDM, but it's pretty cool. It's the BDSM dance club scene with Trinity where Neo goes to meet her for the first time. And it's playing Rob Zombie's Dragula, which is like...
Of course.
Isn't...
Of course it is.
EDM, it's just... Is Rob Zombie just like metal, like hardcore, like just...
Back then, I guess you would have called him metal. Now, I don't know exactly how you would classify him. Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely more accurate to the era. That also like makes me think of like what people like Paul Oakenfold would play in the late 90s when they or the Crystal Crystal Method.
And it just kind of makes you think about like most clubs just kind of do a single thing now, not like cater to like the Rob Zombie crowd or the hard techno like Blade portrayed crowd, but nowadays, you know, you don't see that kind of thing anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been to a club in over a year, so I have.
I mean,
my scope of knowledge of that is. Last but not least, Diplo in the Pokemon movie, Detective Pikachu.
Oh, dude, yeah, okay, I totally forgot about that.
Diplo does a lot of cameos for shit, but that's the thing is like DJs are never the focal point in a movie. They're always the background, so they're never going to be like represented in a factual way because they have to perform for the camera, whereas a DJ is like actually working to perform for the crowd. A DJ is like moving in a way that is pleasing to the camera, in the way that's pleasing to the Hollywood, the producer, you know, whoever's making the film, to make it look interesting. I don't know if we're gonna see like an accurate representation of DJing in a movie that isn't about DJing. Obviously, We Are Your Friends is not it, but it took a step in the right direction, especially like from SNL back in 2014. So that's the SNL sketch was in 2014. We Are Your Friends came out in 2015. So yeah, apparently like I don't know if they got influenced by that. I think that's probably reading into it a bit too far. I would love to see like an accurate like DJ movie. There's just so many parts of it that just like aren't interesting. You have that hour on stage that is just full of intensity and life, and then you go back to your hotel room by yourself a lot of times, and then just go on the next flight to the next show. Movies definitely glamorize it. Kids come into the industry and they're like, what? It's not really like this? Like, no, sorry, dude. Like, it's an actual job. There is work that goes into it.
It'd be cool to see like a biopic about like Skrillex or something.
I mean, there is that video on YouTube called All My Friends Hate Skrillex that I haven't watched, but I've heard mixed things about it. Either way, that does it for us EDM chatters. I hope you enjoyed our ramblings and maybe learned a thing or two. Don't forget to like and comment on this video and subscribe to our channel if you want more exciting EDM content from us. And I know you fucking do. I know you do. You want it. You want it. You want it. We'll see you in the next one.
Later, guys.
Bye.